welcome to Salubrious Skin with Dr. Irene. Today in Psoriasis Unmasked, we're talking about part 3, lifestyle that can be conducive to the management of psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis as well. So what I want to talk about are the lifestyle choices we make for the health of our skin and our joints. And the reason why it's important is because inflammation can enter our lives and our bodies in various ways. And our lifestyle choices are one area that is of major concern. So when we talk about having a great lifestyle, we're talking about having healthy friendships, healthy relationships. We can be making the right decisions as far as sleeping, going out, alcohol consumption, all that sort of thing encompasses lifestyle factors. So I want to talk about a little bit about friendships, because that's one thing that I have found a little bit of a challenge, because not necessarily I had bad friendships. They were lovely people, but what I found was there seemed to be a lot of drama in around them, and not necessarily their fault, but sometimes we can make the decision to, have drama in our life. And sometimes people are laid back, don't stress, and look at life from a different perspective. So that's individual for that each person. But when you're friends with someone like that, it can impact the way you are. And if you're an empathetic person where you're trying to help, or you feel bad for them, or you get affected by their stress levels, then essentially that's going to impact your own health. So I don't want you to necessarily cut ties with everyone that creates stress, but it's all about taking inventory on who or where you're receiving stress from. Is it a short-term situation, or is it a long-term situation? And often, like I said, I have cut ties with people that I felt were too stressful. And the huge reason around it was when my skin was erythrodermic, which had covered my entire body, I felt every ounce of my energy needed to be utilized to get better. And so when I was confronted with these situations, I actually felt exhausted and couldn't help. And I felt it drained me. I felt it stressed me. It made my skin worse. And that's obviously how I allow it to impact me. And that's why I had to cut ties, because of the way I was impacted by it. I didn't have that ability to remove myself like I do now, where I'm able to, be healthier and recognize that's their journey, this is my journey, not to take it on. When I was younger, I couldn't really differentiate between that. So another area that you have to really be aware of to make the right decision is choosing your life partner. And that's whether you do want a life partner or you don't. But if you do, and you're spending a lot of time with this person, you need someone who's supportive, nurturing, and vice versa. It's a mutually beneficial relationship where you nurture and help them, and they help you. If it's something that's stressful, you feel like you're being criticized, or you feel stressed, because I've had patients tell me where their partners aren't supportive. If they have to stay home because they're not well, they get frustrated because they're not able to go out and socialize. All these factors play a huge role in who you choose. And my husband now, I've been with him for 22 years, and that was a huge eye-opener for me, because within 2 months of dating, my skin, I had a major flare-up. And although it was a challenge for him initially, he did make the decision to support me, and is a very laid back, relaxed person. So that helped with the inability of going out. He didn't really seem fussed by it. Then when my skin got better, we'd go out and, just kind of took it as it came. And so for me, that was something that was hugely beneficial. Okay, so when we're looking at taking inventory on our life and seeing where the stresses are, we have to see how our skin, how our body is reacting. And that's the beauty of having a skin disease. I know there's no beauties in it, but this is actually a huge indicator for us, because if we feel itchy, if we feel the skin gets hot, it gets more red, it gets thicker, we can usually go, okay, well then what I did, whether I had a late night because I was studying because of exams, or you know, had a late night because I wanted to go out with some friends. You know, all those sort of things will show an impact on our skin. With the joints, I personally have found more of a reaction with my joints with carbohydrates, because obviously my lifestyle choices are somewhat healthy for me. But I think when you can find that something is causing stiffness in your joints, or more redness or irritation in the joints, they feel like they're burning. Or I had a patient where there was a lot of emotional disturbance, and her psoriatic arthritis would flare up pretty much the next day after that. So that was a huge indicator for her. And I think it's one of those things that if we're mindful of it, then we can address it. If we're not mindful of it, then we can miss it and not necessarily make the changes we need to make. Okay, so like I said, the areas of concern: making sure you sleep early, getting lots of sleep, because that's when the body rejuvenates. Alcohol consumption, I personally prefer zero alcohol consumption, because alcohol is very inflamed. It's very, what we call, damp, and especially for people who have psoriasis in their folds, so armpits, groin, under breasts, that sort of is a damp heat presentation. So alcohol is really a contributing factor for that. And also any drug consumption. So just, again, be mindful of how your body responds and take responsibility for making those changes to get your body well. So one way that I found that was very useful for me was keeping a diary, because sometimes things can get mixed up, especially when you're trying to figure out whether diet is having an issue or whether it's a lifestyle decision that you've made that's had an issue. If you keep a diary or a journal, and you can say, okay, well, my skin is worse today, what could it possibly have been? And you reflect back on the last 3 days. Well, you know what, my diet's been pretty good for what I think, but this is maybe questionable. And then it might sound silly, but I would try it again, not mixed with any other potential instigating factors. I would really just keep it focused on that one, and then leaving the 3 days and see how you feel. Because you might just have, it might be another reason, but you know, without a doubt, late nights will always exacerbate this psoriatic disease, alcohol and drug consumption. But when we're talking about other things that you may not be sure of, then definitely maybe repeat it and see how you go. But, you know, usually you'll feel a physiological effect. If there's a negative feeling, or you feel anxious or sick in the stomach, or you're worrying or you're stressed, that sort of emotional reaction to the situation is a pretty good indicator that it's not ideal. So once you've recognized that's present, then you would say, okay, well, is this just a short duration? You know, is a friend of mine going through a relationship breakdown? Am I studying for exams? Do I have assessments? Do I have a project on at work that's got a deadline? You know, if it's short term, you're obviously not going to run away from it, but it's a really good indicator. If your career is creating these deadlines on a regular basis, then essentially you're going to find stress occurring on a regular basis. So that's something that you need to decide, whether it's the place you're working at or whether it's the career you've chosen. How do you rectify that presence of stress? So not necessarily running away from it, but how do you rectify it? Do you meditate? Do you do qigong, yoga, go to the gym? What do you do to calm the nervous system down to counteract the effect of stress having on the body? Okay, so that's pretty much lifestyle choices in a nutshell. Keeping yourself a diary, identifying the physiological response your body has to various circumstances, and creating a plan to make those changes, whether it's removing yourself from that situation or changing the way your body receives that stress. How does it deal with it and process it? And as a result, we can minimize the impact on our body. Now, before I go, I'd like to mention the Salubro Therapeutics trial packs that we've recently launched. It's a great way to trial all our range in small little tubs, and you can get more information on that on salubre.com.au. Get into the eczema and psoriasis topical relief section, and then you'll find the trial packs there. If you have any questions email me at info@salubre.com.au, and be sure to catch our next section of Psoriasis Unmasked, part 4, which is what are my treatment options in the management of psoriatic disease. I'll see you then. Bye.